thinking of getting jobs down there? Sure, as long as the professors haven't got anything cooking at Spindrift, we could try to get jobs on some kind of scientific project. The professors Rick referred to were the world-famous scientists who lived on Spindrift Island and had their laboratories there. Rick's father, Hartson Brant, was head of the important scientific group that already had contributed so much to the science of electronics. It was during one of the experiments sending a controlled rocket to the moon that Rick had met Scotty. The ex-Marine had rescued him from a possible beating at the hands of Manfred Wessel's group, and later had been instrumental in defeating the renegade scientist's efforts to destroy the Spindrift Island rocket. After the adventure of the rocket's shadow, as they had called it, Scotty, who was an orphan, had become an accepted member of the Spindrift Island family. Later, the two boys had gone with Professor Hobart Zircon and Professor Julius Weiss to High Tibet to set up a radar transmitter for sending messages via the moon. They had succeeded only after overcoming many obstacles thrown in their way by the unscrupulous adventurer Hendrik von Groot and the lost tribe of the Mongols whose city was hidden in the Valley of the Golden Tomb. Since then, however, no experiments of an important nature had been stated, and the boys, foreseeing no adventures on Spindrift Island, had discussed getting jobs for the summer. Rick turned the idea over in his mind. His great ambition was to follow in his famous father's footsteps and become a leading electronics scientist. Mining the sea was new. It would be exciting, and he could learn a great deal. "Let's go down and look it over," he said impulsively. "Well, I guess we might land on that stretch of beach, if it's hard-packed enough," Scotty suggested. In a few moments they were low over the water, running parallel with the beach. "It looks okay," Rick said after a survey. "You think you could put her in?" Scotty was learning to handle the Cub surprisingly well, but he had never made a landing on anything except a good field. His eyes searched for possible obstacles. "I think so," he answered finally. Rick tightened his safety belt. "Okay." The Cub banked sharply around as Scotty lined up the stretch of beach. In a moment, Rick saw sand below. The beach came up with a slight jar, and then they were rolling to a stop on the hard-packed sand. "Nice going," Rick commented. He stepped out onto the beach as Scotty cut the engine. The sea mine plant was only a few hundred yards away. Scotty joined him, and they stood looking at what they could see of it over the top of the high board fence. There was no sound from inside. "Place looks like it's deserted," said Rick. "It's Sunday, remember?" Scotty reminded him. "They're probably all sleeping, like sensible people should do on a Sunday afternoon." Rick was already striding up the bank toward the road that led past the plant. His active imagination raced ahead of him. He had visions of great quantities of seawater pouring into the plant in a steady rush, to be reduced finally to gold and silver, magnesium, aluminum, or any of 1,000 other things. And he had a vision of himself taking part in the magic transformation of seawater to valuable minerals. "Wait, I was wrong," Scotty remarked as they reached the road. "Look." A man stood at what was evidently the plant gate. He seemed to be trying to peer through a crack in the boards that formed the gate. "He must have just come back from church," Rick said. "Those certainly aren't working clothes he's wearing." The man was attired in a severe black suit, and he wore a starched collar, black string tie, and a white shirt. His gray hat was pulled down low on his forehead. "Well, must be a lucky break," Scotty said. "He's probably one of the owners coming to see whether his plant is still there." Rick cupped his hands to his mouth. "Hello!" The man's head jerked up in surprise. Rick caught a glimpse of a face, startling even at a distance. It was astonishingly white. "Hey, look, he's running!" Scotty exclaimed. The man had turned and was departing on a dead run. He rounded a corner of the board fence and disappeared. In a moment they heard the roar of a car engine, and a black sedan shot out from beyond the fence and vanished in the direction of the town. Rick just had time to notice that the car's rear bumper hung at an angle. One end of it almost touched the ground. "Well, that beats me," Rick exclaimed. "He took off like a P-80 as soon as he saw us." "Well, maybe we startled him." "He must have seen the Cub, I guess," Rick pointed out. "He probably saw us when we were up high, but this fence is pretty tall. I doubt he saw us sit down on the beach, although he must have heard the motor." Rick nodded. The man standing at the gate of the high fence wouldn't have been able to